Buying a home is filled with these incredible highs. And let's be honest, a few confusing fees. One of the big ones that always comes up is the appraisal fee. So who actually pays for it? Well, the answer might not be what you think. Let's dive in and break it all down.
So, picture this. You found the perfect home, your offer was accepted, and you're rolling right along. Then, your lender brings up the appraisal. You know it's a critical step, but it immediately begs the question, who's actually on the hook for that bill? All right, let's start with the standard rule of thumb. In your typical, everyday home purchase, there's a pretty clear-cut answer to this. Yep, that's right. It's you, the buyer. In the vast majority of real estate deals, if you're the one taking out the loan, the cost of that appraisal is going to fall on your shoulders. You can just think of it as part of the cost of getting the mortgage. So why is this the buyer's cost? Well, the logic is actually pretty simple. It's a chain of events, really. First, your lender absolutely requires the appraisal. Why? To protect their own investment. They have to know the house is worth what you're borrowing. Second, this appraisal is a non-negotiable part of your loan approval. No appraisal, no loan. So since it's all for your loan, the cost gets passed directly onto you. Makes sense, right? So when does this money actually leave your account? You'll usually see it handled in one of two ways. Sometimes you'll have to pay for it upfront, with a credit card right when your lender orders it. Other times, it gets rolled into all your other closing costs, which you pay in a lump sum at the very end. You should definitely ask your lender how they handle it so you're prepared. And here is a super critical detail you've got to remember. This fee is non-refundable. The appraiser performed a professional service, they did their job, so even if the deal completely falls apart later on, for any reason, you've already paid for their time and their expert opinion. It's a fee for the work performed, not for a successful closing. But rules are sometimes made to be bent, right? While the buyer paying is the standard, there are a few scenarios, a little plot twist, if you will, where the seller might actually step in and cover the cost for you. So when would a seller ever pick up this tab? Well, think about it. If it's a buyer's market and homes are sitting for a while, a seller might offer to pay it as a concession to make their house more attractive. Another big one is if the appraisal comes in low and the whole deal is at risk, a really motivated seller might pay for it just to save the sale. And finally, if you're buying new construction, it's pretty common for builders to offer it up as an incentive to get you to sign on the dotted line. Now, it's not like the seller just Venmos the appraiser or something. Instead, it's all handled through a formal process called a seller credit. This just means that at closing, the seller agrees to give you, the buyer, a certain amount of money to put towards your total costs. So they might give you say a $500 credit, which you can then use to cover that appraisal fee. Okay, so that covers buying a home. But what about refinancing? You already own the house, you're just swapping out your mortgage. Do the same rules apply? You bet it does. The core principle is exactly the same. In a purchase, the buyer is the borrower. In a refinance, the homeowner is the borrower. And in both situations, the person who is getting the loan is the one who pays for the appraisal that the lender requires. Exactly. I mean, think about it. Your home's value has probably changed, hopefully gone up since you first bought it. So for a new loan, and a refinance is a new loan, the lender needs an up-to-date valuation. They have to make sure the property still secures the amount you're borrowing. And since that verification is for your new loan, it's your expense. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about how much this thing actually costs, and maybe more importantly, who's in control of the whole process. So what kind of numbers should you be budgeting for? Well, the cost can vary quite a bit, but a good ballpark is somewhere between $300 and $900. The final price really depends on things like where you live, the size and complexity of the home, and just how busy appraisers are in your area. This brings us to a really logical question we hear all the time. If you're the one paying for it, it seems fair that you should be able to shop around for the best price, or at least pick someone you trust, right? Well, the answer to that is a hard no, and there's a really important reason for it: impartiality. To prevent any kind of conflict of interest, federal regulations require the lender to order the appraisal through a neutral third-party system. This makes sure the appraiser can give a totally fair, unbiased valuation without any pressure from the buyer, the seller, or anyone else. So while you can't choose the appraiser, you are not going to be kept in the dark about the cost. The exact fee will be clearly listed on two official documents you get from your lender. First, the loan estimate, which comes at the beginning, and second, the closing disclosure, which you get right before you sign. Make sure you look them over carefully. So there you have it. Now you know who pays the piper. But what happens when that appraisal report comes back and the value is low? All of a sudden, the bank won't give you the money you need, and your whole deal could be in jeopardy.
Now, what do you do then? Aha, well, that's a story for another day. And that, my friends, is where the real home buying drama begins.